I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Kenneth, and in this video I'm going to be talking to you about, will no contact work on all attachment styles? So for those of you that are going through a breakup, you probably are starting to finally hear about attachment styles. Now, when we launched the channel many years ago, nobody was talking about attachment styles and breakups. But now it seems like everybody is trying to start their own podcast talking about attachment theory, okay? I've been a therapist for over 20 years. Margaret had over 40 years of experience, and Victoria went to the same program I did, studied with myself and Margaret, and did training with Margaret for years before she came on board. So we know this stuff really well. Because attachment styles is really just giving you an insight into mental health. It's kind of breaking down mental health a bit in a way that it's more easier to navigate for the average person who's looking for insight into their breakups. So there are a lot of people that talk about attachment theory now. And quite honestly, a lot of the information is not good. So please be very careful where you get it from. If you see somebody that is a clinician, I'm a lot more likely to take that information than somebody that tends to be taking little bits and pieces of information here and there, because a lot of the times if somebody says, hey, did you see this clip or did you see this thing? I'll watch it and I won't agree with a bunch of the stuff that they're saying. So please be careful where you get your information. Don't take it all as like hard facts. Even what we say. Think about everything what we say and form your own conclusions. So don't take everything as solid facts for everything, because when we're dealing with human beings, people are different. There tend to be things that we see, tendencies, but don't take it as all solid evidence. So we talk a lot about no contact after a breakup, going no contact, right? What does that mean? It means for us, we're telling you, don't reach out to your ex. If they've ended the relationship, leave them alone, let them reach out to you. It's the healthy thing to do. It's the thing that is going to show that you respect yourself the most by doing that, by showing them that you're confident, you can handle whatever comes at you, that you're not needy, and you don't need them to take care of you. Okay? It's a very attractive thing to do. But you're going to see that different attachment styles tend to handle things differently, right? So a lot of people wonder, well, is no contact going to work on my ex because I was dating an avoidant, or I was dating somebody who was disorganized, or my person was anxious or secure? It doesn't matter. No matter what their attachment style is, no contact will have an impact on them. It doesn't matter. I've been doing this a long time. I'm telling you, I've seen secure people, anxious people, avoidant people, and disorganized people all impacted by no contact. Why? Because ultimately, it's a biological hardwiring that we all have to stay connected to our loved ones. Too much space, it feels like danger. An alarm system goes off in our head, in our unconscious, in the parts of our brain that go beyond our thinking brain, right? That reptilian brain. It's like instinct. We want to stay close to keep us safe. And so it doesn't matter what their attachment style is, it's going to be impacted by that, okay? So don't worry if your ex is anxious. If you see people say that anxious exes don't come back, yes, of course they come back. They're anxious. They tend to be preoccupied with the connection. That's the whole thing that they struggle with, is space and letting go. Now, Avoidance. People think, well, my ex is avoidant, so they're not going to be impacted by it. Yes, they will, but they tend to need more time. But guess what? That's good news for you. That just means you have more time to be prepared to repair things with an avoidant, because you're going to need a lot more patience and a lot more skills and understanding to navigate someone with those struggles. Now, if somebody is disorganized, many times they might have like a borderline personality disorder. Oftentimes those people have had a lot of serious trauma and abuse in their early childhood. Okay, those behaviors are fairly extreme. And I have a bunch of videos on the channel on borderline personality disorder, and most of those were led by Margaret because she had tremendous experience with borderline personality disorder. So check those out. That is a disorganized attachment style. Now, not everybody that's disorganized is a borderline, but everyone that is a borderline is disorganized, okay? Does that make sense? So, secure people. Yes, secure people are going to be impacted by no contact too, okay? Now, their reasoning might come through to them on a more processed and have more realistic expectations to the situation, because a lot of times they're able to see things more clearly. They're not so overwhelmed with anxiety. They're going to be more likely to think about the problems, the reasons the relationship didn't work out, and navigate it in a way that's healthy. So they tend to look at things from a healthier perspective. And so you really want to get healthy if you're going to reattract a secure person, because they're going to lose attraction if you are insecure. They're drawn to secure people. So it doesn't matter which attachment style your ex is, they're going to be impacted by the loss of you in their life. Nobody can avoid feeling a loss from somebody they had a strong bond or connection with. So I understand that it is scary and there's a lot of bad information out there. Sometimes people will say an avoidant won't chase you. That is incorrect. I see avoidants chase people all the time. Perhaps their clients aren't getting chased because they're giving them bad advice. But I see avoidants chase all the time. Okay? So, can you get an avoidant to come back and chase you? Yes. However, your behavior is absolutely critical in navigating that, because if your interest level is too high and you come across as too eager, too desperate, they're going to lose interest right away. Okay, you're not going to chase somebody who's throwing themselves at you. Okay, so a lot of the bad advice out there messes up the dynamic of an avoidant chasing you, right? Like handwritten letters, clean slate messages, looking for excuses to contact your ex. Of course, that's like you chasing them. So why would they need to chase you? They don't need to. So it's important just to understand some of this stuff and put yourself at ease. Focus on the personal growth in no contact. It cannot steer you wrong. It is the best thing for you, because you don't want to say that your success story is based on just what happens with you and your partner. If you grow, you heal, you become more secure and confident, that is a success story. Now, of course, I want you to all have an opportunity to get your ex back. I know what that feels like. Some of you were in situations where the person is just so toxic, maybe even abusive, that really isn't healthy for you. But it often takes time to get to that place. I get it. I know you don't want to hear that right away. You got to process that and figure that out for yourself in time. But if you do it in the right way, talking about it, looking into therapy, reading books, we have tons and tons of free videos. I mean, like, we're getting close to 2,000 videos with this channel and my Breakup Basics channel. And of course, the Creative Healing course and the workbooks. Absolute amazing stuff. Absolutely amazing stuff. It will change your life if you commit to it, okay? It's like going to the gym. If you go to the gym once a week, how much are you really going to change? Even if you give it 6 weeks or 6 months, how different are you? But if you're in the gym an hour a day, 5 days a week, that's going to make a huge difference in 6 months. Okay? So The more you put into the personal growth, the more you're going to get out of it, and the more you're going to be able to navigate partners and their challenges and your own emotional challenges that you're going to struggle with in a breakup and in a relationship. So I have an email coaching today that this is a really interesting one because his ex's behavior is very unusual. She seems to display avoidant behavior, anxious behavior, possibly disorganized, but I certainly don't have enough information to say that she is. But she's certainly doing a lot of unusual, confusing behaviors. And he's actually wondering if no contact is going to work in his situation, because in his experience, no contact has always worked. So now, of course, he's in a situation like that again. He's like, oh, is this going to work? And we've all been there, right? So let's get into this one. They said, hi, Coach Craig. I'm in my mid-30s, and I saw Mia, who's in her late 20s, in July of 21. I was out on a date with another chick when a drunk driver pulled out in front of us and we crashed. So this chick suggested we go to a bar and have a drink. And so we did. Chick, that's like something you would say back in like the 60s, right? Women love to be called chicks. They love it. Then Mia walked in and gave me the look, which I thought was pretty bold considering my date was next to me. I kept looking over my shoulder at Mia, and she kept looking and smiling at me, but would look away instantly in a shy way. The next day, she sent me a friend request. That's interesting. You're at a bar, somehow she finds you on social media. I guess you were talking a little bit. How else would she have found you on social media? That's interesting. She knew who I was. Oh, okay. So she knew who he was. For the next 2 years and 4 months, she would indirectly pursue me by constantly liking all my posts. Now, this is important. 2 years and 4 months, this woman was indirectly pursuing him. What does that sound like? Doesn't sound like secure behavior, right? It sounds a bit avoidant to me. I'm going to like these posts at a distance, but I'm not going to do anything about it, anything meaningful or significant. I didn't have any interest until I had a vivid dream about her. Boy, those dreams will get you, especially in no contact. If you're having nightmares about your ex in no contact, don't use it as an excuse to reach out. I know you want to. I had a nightmare that you died and I was in a plane crash and you were in a boating accident and I just wanted to see if you're okay. No, don't do it. You guys may have heard me said, I had a nightmare about my ex years ago where I felt like I was driving with the Applebee's girl in the car and we got hit by another car and I was laying on the pavement, like I don't know if I was dying or whatnot, but I was certainly out of it. And my ex, the Applebee's girl, left with the driver or the medic in the ambulance and just left with him and left me there. That's what it felt like. Good metaphor, right? That's literally what it felt like. That was the dream I had, and it felt so real. But guess what? I did not reach out, so don't reach out. Don't reach out. I don't care how bad that dream was. Don't do it. Let's see what happens with this guy's vivid dream. Remember, he had no interest in her until the vivid dream. After that, the energy became intense and I was compelled to reach out. See that? Those dreams will get you. He was compelled to reach out to her. 2 weeks later, I reached out and set a date. She admitted, this is important, she admitted she was posting to get my attention and that she prayed for me. Okay, so I talked earlier about her being indirectly pursuing him, and it was questionable, right? Like, was she really doing it because of him? Well, guess what? Now we have an admission that is exactly why she was doing it. She wanted to move to another state, and I wanted to move to a different state, but told me it would be the ultimate dream if she had me there. Later on, I jumped on board after we traveled to the state she wanted to move to for an interview. Being down there was a dream come true, and we were deep in love. And for 4.5 months, a whole 4.5 months, feels like an eternity. We were on cloud 9. She never tested or pulled away until I messed up. Okay, this is another big important point to this story. Okay, this is a story that he's telling himself. Okay, remember, they were only dating for 4.5 months, and he says it was this wonderful, amazing, perfect 4 months. Guess what? It's 4 months. It's usually going to be pretty great and amazing for about 3 to 4 months. And then all of a sudden it falls apart. Okay? So 4.5 months, not a terribly long time. Still in that lust stage, that limerence, that fantasy, the excitement that we all feel when we meet somebody new. Those chemicals, it's basically all those chemicals. We're like drug addicts. But the important thing also is that she never tested or pulled away until I messed up. But does he? That's the thing about this situation is, did he really mess up? Or was it because it was heading towards that long-term attachment and she got scared? Let's see. Or was it both? The day I messed up, she told me she was scared to lose me and has never loved or been loved this much. But later that night, I got a little mad that she rode on a motorcycle with a girl in the past, but was too scared to ride with me. She said she didn't enjoy it then, but I acted foolish and I told her I'm not asking, but I didn't yell or cuss. Well, it was a little bit confusing to read that because that paragraph was one long run-on sentence. Guys, punctuation helps the coach. I haven't complained about this in a while, but please, punctuation helps me. Take your time. I know you're anxious to get those email coachings into me, but remember, I only know what you tell me, and so you want to be as clear as possible. In a call, obviously I can ask questions if I don't know what you're talking about. It's very easy for me to clarify. So always remember that. But it basically sounds like, and you know, the frustrating thing for me is that I'm trying to really understand this one point here because he really thinks this is the point where he messed it all up, right? He's saying it was perfect and amazing till I messed up, but then the mess up part is confusing to read. And it doesn't make a lot of sense. But I'm assuming he means that she wouldn't ride with him on the motorcycle, and that bothered him. It hurt his feelings. But when she had admitted she had done it in the past, she had said, well, I didn't like it anyway. And then he said, well, I'm not even asking you to. Because he said, I'm not even asking. So it's a little vague, but I'm assuming that's what he means here. But this is the problem, is that, watch what he says next. So it would be important for me to understand exactly what that argument was about. His next 3 words are, it changed everything. Okay? So if you're telling me something changed everything, make it clear as to what changed everything. But it doesn't sound too bad, right? Like, it sounds like a minor argument that most couples are going to have. It doesn't seem like any kind of a deal breaker. She brought up her ex and the horrible things he used to do when he didn't validate her emotions. She said I triggered her trauma and no longer felt safe. Okay. What do you guys think? It doesn't sound that bad. I mean, he lost his temper a little bit. Doesn't seem like it was that big of a deal that it would cause somebody not to feel safe with you. But if she had a lot of trauma, then she's going to be more sensitive to those things. Later that week, we took a trip and had an amazing time. She gave me all of her love. After the trip, Her verbal and physical intimacy declined. Her heart closed off, but she was still sending dates, buying gifts, initiating texts, and setting other dates. Well, he said setting dates twice. He was really excited about that. It was just that the communication where it mattered ended, and she became avoidant, but at the same time had an anxious attachment. Okay, so this is confusing, right? Because she seemed a bit avoidant before, but she's also giving off some anxious tendency. Now, people can be both, right? But we tend to be predominantly one more than the other. Every time I tried to communicate and open her back up, she would snap and start talking about a breakup. She's talking about breaking up when you're trying to repair this? That's interesting. See, that feels avoidant, right? Like he's trying to fix things and it's freaking her out. Because remember, she also said this is the most she's ever felt in love and loved. And that's also interesting when you think about it, because their relationship was only 4.5 months. It's not like they were together for 2 years, or it was this long-term commitment. And she said, I've never felt this in love before, or this loved before. This is after a short amount of time, so it just makes me wonder how toxic her other relationships might have been. She wound up moving to the state that she was wanting to move to, and her last night here, we got into it, where I deleted everything because she wanted to call it quits. When I confirmed the breakup, she panicked. We continued to talk and had a few good days talking lovey-dovey and reminisced. There were more intimacy and affection than the past few months, but when I tried to set a date, she gave resistance. Well, that's interesting. This is a bit confusing too, right? Because where is the intimacy? Like, he's saying affection, so that makes me think physically, but didn't she already move? It's a little confusing with the wording there. I couldn't get quite back on track, so I went no contact for about 3 weeks now. She said she never stopped loving me one bit and got defensive when I accused her of not loving me. Also, she said she never lost attraction. So, that's interesting. Doesn't sound like he was smothering her, that maybe hurt the attraction. So maybe she's more on the fearful avoidance side, where she's afraid of closeness. And so she sabotages things. Coach, I studied female psychology and worked on myself for years. You learned all about those chicks. I was doing good and messed up with the one woman that ever mattered. Okay, so this is often what happens, guys. This is why I always tell you have to work on your attachment styles, because when you get attached, this is what happens. You may have been good, like getting to know people or in that pickup kind of area, but that is very, very different than long-term attachment. It's a completely different thing. Now, yes, you can learn some skills from people in the pickup world. There are, obviously, it's not really what it was, 10, 15 years ago. It's changed a lot. As a matter of fact, a lot of those pickup artists are starting to talk about the stuff that we've been talking about for a long time now with understanding attachment theory. But yeah, it's a big difference when you're going out to bars and picking people up or getting numbers and first starting to date somebody than it is when you are attached. That is a whole completely different set of skills. And you have to work through that. Because that's really about the people you love, as opposed to being able to speak with strangers. Every mistake I knew not to make, I made after that night. I displayed some needy behavior, and I didn't handle the test and the pulling away like I should have. Now, I don't think this was any kind of a test. I know that some people will call things like this test. I don't think this is a test. I think this is somebody who is genuinely scared of too much closeness. And she admitted it. right? She said, I'm scared of losing you. So many people mess things up with the person they're afraid of losing, right? What do I say? What have you heard me say for years? The very thing we're afraid of, we cause to happen. Okay? One of my favorite examples is Anakin Skywalker. The very thing he's afraid of, losing his wife, he causes to happen, and he becomes Darth Vader. And it's really interesting to me because George Lucas really understood attachment trauma and how that happens. But that's a whole nother video I could get into for that. I had many interesting discussions with Margaret about that too, because I have some interesting theories about that. But the things we're afraid of, we cause to happen. She's afraid of losing him. What happens? Now she loses him. He says, I'm devastated. No contact has always worked. Do you think it will work with us? She was the best ever and gave me more love than I needed or asked for, and nothing was too much for her. Yeah, except for long-term closeness. I think she's got a lot of trauma in her past. I don't know a lot about her, but just piecing those little pieces together and doing this a long time, I could see that she's got some different stuff going on here that is maybe even disorganized. I don't have enough info, but would it surprise me? No. I'd want to know more about that trauma history before I even started to think about that. But I am just putting it out there because I don't want people in the comments to be like, she's disorganized. Well, she could be. But she does have a lot of anxious behavior and a lot of avoidant behavior. And so she could be fearful avoidant. We here at the channel don't consider disorganized fearful avoidant. I know some people do. I consider fearful avoidant more to be an avoidant who is more afraid of closeness, as opposed to the dismissive avoidants that are more cold and harsh, right? So we see it slightly differently, and I consider disorganized to be its own attachment style. And so I'm not going to say that she is, because I don't have enough info. Is it possible? But ultimately, he's wondering, is no contact going to work here? And I do think she's going to miss you, because she had a lot of nice positive things to say about you. But she better look at herself and what's going on with her, and if she's unconsciously sabotaging this. Now, he's blaming himself, but I don't think that argument was a deal breaker. Now, I don't know how bad it was, but from what I've read and what I heard about this, it just seems like this was more about her getting attached and getting scared, and it just so happened that that one thing around that same time started to freak her out, and that's why she got scared. So leave her be and take it slow. Let her open up to you. You need to hear what's going on with her. Let her open her heart to you about what she's feeling and thinking, and really work on the skills to be with somebody like this, because she's gonna get scared easily, and you're gonna have to really be empathetic and compassionate and understanding when somebody is scared like this and they're opening up to you. Okay? So hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get my help, you can do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. You can get my creative healing course and my workbooks only on my website. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth, and I will talk with you soon.